April 1898. America was about to enter a new era. In this year, most Americans were still living in the country and still relying on the original horsepower. But more and more people were becoming part of America's industrial economy. Our factories were now proving more productive than those of Europe, while creating new industrial technologies. American prosperity was being driven by advertising. Advertisements were nearly everywhere in cities. The most prolific advertisers were the makers of patent medicines. Another market for advertising was created by the Yukon Gold Rush. 2 years earlier, in 1896, gold was discovered in the Klondike region of Canada, luring over 100,000 prospectors up north. By 1898, the rush had played out, and now men were moving on to a new gold strike in Nome, Alaska. But advertisers were still pitching their ads at latecomers to the Klondike goldfields. This month, one story was appearing almost daily in American newspapers: the Cuban insurrection. For 3 years, Cuban insurgents had tried to rid themselves of Spanish rule, and they'd appealed to the U.S. to help them win their independence. Americans were naturally sympathetic to a people fighting for liberation, especially when they heard that the Spanish military commander was rounding up Cubans into what were, in effect, concentration camps. Early in the year, after rioting broke out in Havana, Washington ordered the USS Maine to Cuba to ensure the safety of Americans in that country. On the evening of February 15th, the ship exploded, killing 266 men. Americans assumed the ship had been destroyed by the Spanish authorities, and many were now demanding war with Spain. Knowing how a war could increase circulation, the Hearst and Pulitzer newspapers played upon Americans' war fever. Periodicals continually portrayed Spaniards as bloodthirsty fiends. For the next 2 months, the press kept stoking Americans' anger at Spain. On April 21st, seeing Spain unable to end the insurrection by either defeating or conceding to the insurgents, the U.S. declared war. The fighting lasted less than 4 months. 385 Americans died in combat in Cuba and in the Spanish-held Philippines. But for every American who died in battle, another 5 died from disease. Back home, some Americans saw our presence in Cuba and the Philippines as the beginning of an American empire. But any thoughts in that direction soon met the reality that Cubans, and especially the Filipinos, would rather fight than accept American domination. Saturday Evening Post members can explore our 200-year-old archive for only $15 a year. Subscribe today.